for this skill builder, I want you to try and copy like a favorite cartoon character. Now when I say copy, I don't mean trace, because tracing, while that can be helpful sometimes, right now we're trying to work on the skill of building our hand-eye coordination and trying to draw things from observation, means looking at something to help us draw it. So I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks though. I know that I was in middle school, I drew cartoons all the time, and I copied cartoons, and I tried to like copy the style of other cartoons that I really liked, and I loved Garfield. So what you can do is break down your cartoon into some basic shapes. So you start with like maybe a circle shape for the head, and then you draw like another, this is like a similar circle shape or oval shape kind of for the belly, and he has that kind of little like chubby neck right there. So we're gonna round out the belly. And if it helps you, you can draw with like a light pencil or a light colored pencil even, just to like, so that you don't feel like you're trying to draw it super realistic or perfectly right off the bat. Sometimes it's helpful to start with a different kind of pencil so you can like, yeah, I'm just sketching, kind of switches your brain into thinking I'm just sketching. Okay, so I've kind of got these two shapes. It's a head and the belly. And then I need to establish where the leg is. Now you might remember from our still life drawing video that you always want to be kind of cross comparing size relationships. So how big is his head compared to his belly? And the head is maybe slightly bigger than the belly, but not much bigger. They're pretty close in size. And then how long is his leg compared to the rest of his body? Let's just kind of compare real quick. I'm going to take my pencil and line it up here, and I'm going to kind of pinch where the bottom of his foot is. That's how long his leg is. And if I compare it to like the bottom of his belly, it goes up to like his nose. So if I go over here, if I think, okay, his nose is probably around here, and I measure from there to there, from his nose to the bottom of his belly, from his nose to the bottom of his belly, it should be about the same length. So I'm going to kind of take that measurement and go down here. It's almost going off my paper actually. But that's how you can use size relationships, comparing the sizes between different things to get what we call the proportions correct. How does one part fit with the other parts? All right, and then we got this other foot. And then again, comparing, like if you draw the foot like this, and you're like, why doesn't that look right? You can refer back to your drawing or the cartoon that you're drawing, and you can draw a line straight up and say, oh, you know what? His toes actually step like a ways out from this arm that's sticking here. So I know his arm, or his leg his foot rather, needs to come out this far because it's popping away from his body there. So again, size relationships. How long is this leg compared to his body? So size relationships, and then kind of comparing where things overlap and where they line up. So we know his toes kind of pop out this far, so we're gonna have to draw them popping out that far. All right. And then I look at negative shapes too, or negative space. Negative space is the space between areas. So look at that, there's a little triangle of negative space. So as I'm drawing his legs in there, I'm gonna try and copy that triangle that I see, because that leg kind of overlaps with the other one, right? And then I'm gonna draw these little toesies in here. Okay. Now I need to draw the arms and the tail. So I'll draw the tail next because that's kind of right along the side of this leg. And then where does it crisscross? Where does it intersect with the foot? Right around here is where the end of it intersects. Intersection of lines. That already is not looking quite right to me. I think maybe that foot needs to actually be longer. Let's compare. So that foot is like that far away from the head. And how do I have it right now? Yeah, I don't quite have that foot long enough. So I need to make that foot longer, and that'll make my tail look less like kind of stubby right there. It'll kind of be able to stretch out a bit more. So look, I'm cross comparing size relationships to figure out how to draw something accurately. Okay, got that going. Now let's do the arms. We kind of have, you can break it down into a stick figure. It kind of goes like that. So it bends down and up. And then there's sort of this bump right here for his one hand that's tucked under. And then there's these 3 kind of oval shapes for his hand that's over here. And then it crosses under, and I kind of started to draw that bump before. Crosses up, and then I'll round out that elbow, and I'm just kind of starting to add some more details in here. Good. And now I see his face is actually kind of bumping up right next to that hand, so I'm going to have to adjust that line. Even though I drew it here, I'm going to go ahead and fix it and draw it coming out like that. And same on this side, we have, it kind of starts right here and curves up and around. Sometimes what can be helpful is, if I know I have this printed and you might be looking at it on a phone or computer, but sometimes what's helpful is to kind of sort of shadow the line. So you go over your reference image and you kind of hover above it and try to get the shape of that curve. That can kind of help sometimes you translate that curve over so that you don't squish it or stretch it out too much. Okay, now we gotta do those ears are around here somewhere. And his eyes and his nose. So his nose is like straight above those 2 knuckles, kind of a little bit. So that will help me figure out where the nose needs to be in this big shape. It's right above those knuckles. It's not way over here. It's not way over here. It's right there. And then I'll use, trying to kind of use this as a guide of figuring out, okay, there's an angle right there, and then it curves up. And there's a round part. And then we're going to curve up that one eye and curve up this other eye. And as I'm doing this, like, please notice that, you know, there's always sketchy lines that's really showing that I'm making lots of mistakes, and then I'm correcting them as I go. Like, this line was wrong. This line was wrong. So don't get hung up on trying to make your lines right the first time you draw. You just kind of keep going and say, oh, that one wasn't quite right. I'm gonna draw around it until that looks correct. And if you need to erase your lines as you go, you can. I've had enough practice where, like, I guess my brain automatically is seeing the ones that I want to see. Or you can, the other trick is you can darken it, is what I do, is I kind of go around and darken the lines that I want to keep. And then the other ones kind of fade into the background. All right, I think this is looking pretty good. Cool, all right. Do I have the ears correct? There's a little curve right here, and then it will pop up. So maybe that curve needs to be a little bit further out. Okay, cool, there we go. And then this one, the intersection is right there. So I kind of drew that wrong the first time. So I'm gonna make that ear a little bit skinnier. Good. Once you have your drawing, kind of your sketch going, this is where you could ink it in if you would like. But if you feel like you got enough practice just with your pencil, that's fine. But I'm gonna go ahead and ink this up here just for fun. All right, so there's Garfield all inked up. So that's how you can break a cartoon into shapes and then kind of also use that cross comparing. Like, where does the foot come out compared to the rest of the body? How, and size relationships, how big is the belly of the body compared to the head of the body, whatever it is. And the other thing I'll tell you is that if you only saw this, aside from maybe a couple little glitches, for the most part, you'd be like, oh, that's Garfield. You could tell that it's Garfield, right? Even though if we compare it side by side with this picture, there's definitely things I didn't get quite right. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get it exact, because really you're just making your own thing, and this is practicing, and it doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm gonna do one more, but I might go ahead and do it in like a time-lapse form, and then you can kind of just sort of get the gist of what I'm doing based off of what I did here with the Garfield. All right, so here is the character from The Secret of Nim. It's an old cartoon that I really liked when I was a kid, but I just love this little mouse. She's so cute. So anyway, hopefully you get the idea. Yours does not need to be perfect, but please, for at least Monday, I want you to just practice this and then post your practice drawings on Seesaw. And then on Tuesday, what I'd like you to do is do like a cartoon remix. So draw two cartoons that don't normally go together into one scene. So you'll have something to turn in for Monday and Tuesday this week. Monday is kind of a practice, this breaking characters down into shapes and trying to copy a cartoon without tracing. And then Tuesday is using that knowledge to take two cartoon characters that don't normally go together and put them in a scene together. All right, have fun.